Hey everybody, I'm George Connolly from Scratch Golf Tips. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about practicing your golf and how you can formulate the best practice routine to improve your golf game this season. Now, as much as we want to be able to play golf, unfortunately not everybody can play golf as often as a PGA Tour pro. So any time that you can spend at the range working on your game needs to be time well spent. So let's talk about how you can maximize your time practicing. The first thing to go over is how much time you want to spend in each part of your game. We're going to break it down into 4 pieces. You have your putting, your short game, which is chipping, pitching. You have your irons and wedges, full shots, and then you have your driver and woods, full shots. Now, ideally, you should be spending a fairly equal amount of time on each 4 parts of your game, but you can change it a little bit depending on what your strengths and weaknesses are. A lot of people will go to the range and spend a ton of time on their irons and their drivers, and they'll hit 50 drives, but they don't spend any time putting or chipping, but that's not the way that you should approach it. It is so crucial to spend a lot of time putting and chipping. For me personally, right now what I do is if I'm at the range for an hour, I'll spend at least 30 minutes putting and chipping. I like to spend a lot of time on my short game because not only is that a part of my game that's very important, and it's important for anyone's game, but it's also part of my game that isn't as good as the rest. So a huge part in understanding how you should allocate your time is understanding where your strengths and weaknesses fall. If you're a great driver of the ball, it might be easy to show up to the range and just hit a bunch of pretty looking drives, and it might be frustrating to work on your chipping if you feel like you have the yips or you're not a good chipper, but in reality, you need to be spending time addressing your chipping problems. Now let's create a time-based example for a 1-hour practice session and addressing all 4 of these areas. Let's say you're already a really good iron and wedge player with your full shots. Let's only spend 10 minutes on that. Say you're a decent driver of the ball, but you need to work on the woods a little bit. We'll spend 20 minutes on that. That gives you 30 minutes to work on your short game and putting, so let's spend 15 minutes on both of those. That's just an example, but there are a ton of different ways that you can spin it. So now that you have your time allocated, let's talk about how to dive in and really get better in each of these areas. We'll start off with putting because there are so many different putting drills you can do that can cater towards what your issue is. If I'm using myself for example, I actually made a full video on my practice putting routine, which you can watch in the card up above, and that gives a bunch of great drills for what I do. Now, in terms of what drills you should adopt, you just need to find out what your tendencies are. Right now, personally, I know that I like where my putting stroke is at technically, so I don't do many technical drills. I just do a lot of repetition drills to get feel over my stroke itself and also feel over distance control, and I work on my green reading. If you don't like the technical parts of your putting stroke, then you can use the gate drill, you can use a putting mirror. There are a bunch of different resources that you can use for the technical aspects, and then you can just do a bunch of lag putts, or you can try and hit 20 5-foot putts in a row to get that feel base, but it's all based on repetition no matter what you do. So much of success in putting is based off of repetition. That repetition can create a better feel, better consistency, and above all, more confidence in the stroke. Now a transition over to short game and what you can do there. Personally, I like to break up my short game practice into 3 different areas. I like to do short chips, longer chips, or pitches as some call them, and then my sand shots, my greenside bunker shots. I'll put a link up here for my favorite drill, which is just putting down a head cover or towel on the green and just trying to land the ball right on that target. This really helps with your distance control and just choosing a visual on the green and sticking to it. That's one of my favorite chipping drills. And practicing out of a bunker, there are a ton of drills with that too. I know that the double line drill, which I'll show on the screen now, that's a very popular bunker drill as well that a lot of people can use to better their impact. But above all, throughout your practice, throughout spending more time and the repetition, you're just gonna get better feel and more confidence through spending more time on these chips. Similarly to my short game, I like to work on 3 different things with my full iron and wedge shots. One of those is my general swing mechanics, my tempo, my rotation. The second one is shot shaping, left, right, high, low, all that trajectory fun stuff. And then my final one is distance control. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Tiger Woods 3x3 grid drill, which is when you basically visualize a tic-tac-toe board practically, and then you try and hit shots that fit into all 9 of those squares. So you want to hit a low draw, a high fade, mid straight shot, etc. So that's a great way to work on your shot shaping, both left to right, hitting your draws and fades, also your trajectory control. That's a great drill that I like to do visually to really challenge myself in all aspects of my wedge and iron play. As for when I'm working on distance control, there are a few ways that you can do that. If you're just on a practice range, you can try and aim for the flags. If you have a rangefinder, you can point it at one flag, say it's 150 flag, and you can try and just see where your balls land in relation to that flag, and then you can estimate from there. I would also, as always, recommend the FlightScope Mevo, which is a personal launch monitor that you can put behind your ball, and it will give you all kinds of great info, very accurate. FlightScope is a great company used by Bubba Watson, Bryson DeChambeau. If you want your FlightScope Mevo, you can use code SGT50 at checkout for $50 off and free shipping. They're a partner of Scratch Golf Tips, so any purchases made through that link help support the Scratch Golf Tips brand. So those are a few ways to work on your iron and wedges, and now let's get to your woods and drivers. Now, this is something that so many amateurs work on relentlessly when they're on the range, but in reality, a lot of great golfers and a lot of touring golfers, they spend very little time on this part of their game. You have to think of how many times you're going to use a driver during a round. On a standard par 72 course, you're only going to use your driver a maximum of 14 times. Sometimes, for me personally, I probably use it 8 or 9 times in a round. So there's no point in spending a ton of time practicing it, especially when you're gonna be hitting dozens of chips and dozens of putts throughout a round. However, when you do wanna practice it, there are a few things that you should be looking at. For me personally, I like to look at my distance, how far I'm hitting the ball. I like to look at my shot shaping, see if I can hit a controlled fade, controlled draw, a lower shot, similar to my irons and wedges. And then finally, I like to look at my accuracy. Now, one thing I found very helpful for when I'm working on accuracy is I get 2 flags out in the driving range, or you could use 2 trees, and I have a makeshift fairway. It's more of a visual, just so there's something that I can aim at, and that's a great way that I've been able to work on my accuracy when I have a wood and a driver in my hand, and I'm working on those clubs at the range. So now that you know the time allocation to a proper practice range routine, and you also know the different parts and the different aspects that you should be working on, now it's time to customize it for yourself. There are so many great drills out there that you can work on. They're all over social media. The Scratch Golf Tips Instagram, we post a drill every morning, and then a PGA Tour example every evening. So if you want new drills, the Instagram is always down in the bio. There's also a ton of other pages on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook that post drills very often. So you should, you're gonna be getting a lot of drills in. Try out a bunch of them. Not all of them are gonna work, but if you find any that you really like, stick to them and add them into your routine. Understand that your routine is very adaptable. You can always change it, and know that you can only spend so much time at the range, so you might as well use it the best that you possibly can. If any of you have personal questions on what you're working on in your game and what drills I could recommend you directly, you can always send me a message to any of these Scratch Golf Tips social media platforms. The direct messages for all of those pages are open. I get back to you most promptly on the Instagram, so send Scratch Golf Tips on Instagram a direct message. I'll try and get back to you. If you can send me a video of your swing or your putting stroke or chipping stroke, that also helps a lot, but I get back to you nice and quick over there. You can also send me an email directly at scratchgolftips@mail.com. If you like the apparel that I wear in these videos, I wear John Morgan Sportswear. They are a proud partner of Scratch Golf Tips. You can shop their site down below in the bio, and you can use code SGT2021 for a nice discount off your order if you want to wear some of these awesome clothes. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Play well and take care.